Hi there, this is Lester Meacham here, and what you're watching is a time-lapse video of me painting my more recent painting of a seascape in Aberaeron in West Wales, which is where I live at the moment. As you can see from the initial work that's going on there, I'm sort of cutting out shapes really using layers in this Procreate program that I'm using, and then I'm using a frottage technique to put in textures. Frottage, for those of you who don't know what it is, you've probably all heard of brass rubbings. Well, that's frottage, where you put a piece of paper on some textured rock or engravings or whatever, and you rub on the back with charcoal or dark pencil, and you pick up the texture and the from the actual thing that you want to be doing the rubbing of. So that's frottage, and you can see here what I have done is sort of cut out these shapes, if you like, with masks, and then I'm using different textured pencils and pastels and charcoal type brushes, which I've made in Procreate, to give the sort of impression of the textures of the different rocks. The flickering backwards and forwards that you're seeing at the moment is because I'm moving between different layers. So the stones in the foreground there that are just coming in and out are on a foreground layer, which I worked on earlier, and then I've created a layer behind, and now I'm adding the stones there on the beach. You can see I've put a sort of dark background on a layer, and now I'm drawing in using a sort of pastel brush the little stones on the beach, which I've tried to keep quite graphic in nature. You probably can't see from the video, but if you look at the original, you sort of zoom in, you can see that each sort of stone has its own shape. And this composition really is about shapes. When I first conceived the idea of it, the composition is fundamentally built around geometric shapes, and more particularly triangles. So if you look, now I've started to put some sort of darker areas in the foreground. You'll see that the sea in the background. Sorry about my clock going there in the background, but the sea in the background is forming a sort of a triangle across that top left-hand part of the composition, and then we have a band of larger stones going across at a diagonal from top right to bottom left, which also creates a triangle within that top left-hand corner, and also a triangle in the foreground in the bottom right-hand corner, where you can see I'm adding sort of stones at the moment. So you have this sort of band moving diagonally across the composition, which is quite a classic sort of formal way of doing a sort of composition. But of course, as well as the larger triangles within the basic composition, as in the sea up at the top left and the stone down the top right, the larger stones in the centre are also made up basically of a series of triangles. And of course, if you go down into the macro level and look at the way that I'm doing the stones, for instance, in the bottom left-hand corner there, you can see they are also, in essence, a series of mainly triangles and sort of regular shapes. So really, I suppose the triangle is the fundamental shape within the composition of this painting that I've created. So you can sort of see where I'm going with that. I tried to keep the colour in this painting fairly limited. It was a deliberate decision to keep it quite monochromatic. Although, of course, there is a lot of colour in there. It's just very subtle, but also quite strong. I mean, as you can see in the sort of centre left, you've got quite a strong sort of magenta, sort of mauvey sort of colour with the sort of greens and the yellows. So although the whole picture comes over as quite monochromatic, there's actually quite a lot of colour in there. It's just very subtle. The sea in the top left has that sort of slight sort of mauvey sort of magenta colour in it as well, which I think is quite a nice sort of subtle thing to do. That's my other clock, all slightly out of sync, which I suppose is a good idea, so you can hear them all individually. Anyway, now as we move into the later stages of the painting, you can see that it's difficult at certain times to see exactly where I'm working, because I'm doing the finessing really of individual areas. Now I've, if you like, covered the whole canvas with the image. I'm going in now and pulling out different sections, putting some darker shadows in, some colour, maybe just defining some of the smaller stones. I mean, the shapes of the stones on the beach were of particular interest to me. I mean, if you look at the large stones in the middle ground there, which is one of the key features of the painting. Again, I said earlier that they're made up of a series of triangles. And of course, that's exactly the case with these stones on the beach, but I'm particularly interested in the way that they make little patterns. And we as human beings like to see patterns in things, in nature in particularly. So if I look at the beach, like I was when I was doing the drawing for this painting, I can see little rosettes of stones and little shapes, which my brain is sort of pulling out of the mass of stones. And I've done that with when I'm doing the painting. So I'm going in and looking at different sort of patterns of stones and sticks on the beach, which is echoing the overall composition. I mean, it amuses me sometimes that the people say my images look like photographs, which I suppose I can see where they're coming from, but of course photographs have nowhere near the same amount of detail in that my paintings have. Each stone and each stick and each part of the painting has been given sort of individual attention, and that's really what these particular paintings are about. They're about echoing the shapes that I brought out in the composition within the detail of the painting as well. So, there is a reason why each stone is sort of where it is, and the patterns that it makes, and the textures on the larger stones, and the reason for the shape, if you like, of the breakwater going out there into the sea, which is creating, of course, another triangle. It's splitting the triangle in the top part, the sea, into two more triangles. But also it's a series of regular shapes which sort of draws the eye from the bottom left part of the composition up through the stones and the beach, and that sort of punctuates, if you like, your where you finish looking. So that's my intention really, is that your eye is drawn in through from the bottom left up through that sort of band of stones, and then hits that breakwater, which is quite dark against the lighter background, and then that shoots you off up to the top left hand corner, which navigates you through the painting. So Anyway, obviously the video will carry on through, and as I say, you'll have to look quite carefully to see where I'm doing the small finessing and actually completing the painting. So enjoy, and hope you you enjoyed listening to me and looking at my painting. Thank you very much. This is Lester Meacham signing out.